You know, when you think of hacking, you probably picture something from a Hollywood movie, right? Well, forget all that. We're about to dive into a world where your curiosity is basically a superpower, a world where finding flaws in websites is a completely legal, modern-day treasure hunt.
Yeah, you heard that right. It sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? But what if I told you that some of the biggest companies on the planet will literally pay you to find the weak spots in their digital armor before the bad guys do? And that's exactly what bug bounty hunting is. It's this formal agreement between companies and, well, ethical hackers. The mission is pretty simple. You find a security flaw, what we call a bug, you report it to them responsibly, and you get paid a bounty. It's a huge win-win, and honestly, it helps make the entire internet safer for all of us.
So, how do you actually become a digital detective? Well, like any good hunt, you've got to have the right gear. But don't worry, we're not talking about a basement full of blinking servers. You really just need a few key pieces of software to get started.
The starter pack is actually pretty simple. First up, you need a virtual lab. Think of it like a safe sandbox on your computer where you can play around without breaking anything. Inside that, you'll run a special operating system built for this kind of work, like Kali Linux. But the most important tool, your absolute must-have, is what we call a traffic inspector. It's your digital magnifying glass.
And this is the real game changer. Your traffic inspector, the most popular one is called Burp Suite, is your superpower. It literally sits between your web browser and the website server. This lets you intercept, read, and even change the data that's being sent back and forth. This is how you find the clues that nobody else can see.
Okay, so toolkit's ready. The very first phase of any hunt can begin. Reconnaissance, or just recon for short. Think about it. Before you start digging for treasure, you have to map the island, right? In the digital world, that means understanding every single nook and cranny of the website you're targeting.
And the process is really systematic. First, you find all the other websites connected to your main target. We call these subdomains. Then, you use automated tools to scan for hidden pages that aren't linked anywhere obvious. And finally, you use some really clever search tricks to see what kind of information the company might have accidentally left out in public.
So how do you find stuff that isn't obvious? You learn to speak Google's secret language. A normal search for HackerOne programs gets you the basic info, but a technique we call Google dorking is way more powerful. Look at the example. Searching for in-URL HackerOne programs tells Google to only show you pages where the word HackerOne is literally in the web address. This kind of laser focus is how you find things that other people just scroll right past. All right, now for the really exciting part, finding the treasure. And you know what? You don't need to be some coding genius to find your first bug. In fact, some of the most common and critical vulnerabilities are surprisingly simple to spot. Let's look at two of them right now. Our first one is called an insecure direct object reference, or just IDOR. I know, it sounds super technical, but the idea is just shockingly simple. It happens when a website shows you your stuff using a basic ID number in the URL, like profile/123, but it completely forgets to check if you're actually allowed to see, say, profile124. This is a perfect illustration of how it works. Let's say you try to look at a page with an ID of 5, and the site says, "Nope, forbidden." A curious bug hunter might think, well, if I can't view it, maybe I can edit it. By simply changing the word page to edit right there in the URL, boom, they bypass security and get full access. It can be that easy. And listen, this isn't just theory. This is a real quote from a bug hunter describing one of their first finds. Can you imagine that feeling? Realizing you can just change a single number in a web address and suddenly you're able to post on someone else's social media wall. That's the power and the thrill of finding an IDAR. Okay, our second common flaw is called a business logic error. This one is less about breaking the code itself and more about finding a loophole in the website's own rules. It's about tricking the system into doing something the developers never, ever planned for. And here is just a wild example of that. So a hunter added something to their shopping cart, but before checking out, they used their special tool, that traffic inspector, to change the quantity from 1 to -99. The website's logic just did the math. It subtracted the cost over and over, and suddenly the shopping cart had a negative total. The website thought it owed the hunter money. That is a classic, high-impact logic flaw. So fighting these bugs is definitely exciting, and yeah, it can be profitable, but it's so much more than just a game or a hobby. This kind of work is actually a critical piece of the entire internet security puzzle. When you think about it,
Every single bug that's found and fixed is one less door a criminal can walk through. It's one less way for our personal data to get stolen. For the companies, it's a golden opportunity to fix a problem before it turns into a front-page disaster. And for the hunters themselves, it's a legitimate career path, a way to be a modern-day detective, protecting all of us from the shadows of the internet. So, the next time you log into your favorite app or browse a website, just remember that underneath that slick design, there's this incredibly complex world of rules and logic. And it makes you wonder, right? What simple, overlooked crack might be hiding there in plain sight, just waiting for a curious mind to find it?